Hi, my name is Reiko, and I am a AAC SLP with the North Vancouver School District. Welcome to my video on discrete trial teaching for emergent literacy. We are in the middle of a 4-part series with our LSTs to talk about comprehensive literacy for emergent readers. And so this video is only going to cover just a teeny tiny portion of all the stuff that we're covering with those LSTs, but I'm hoping that this video can be complementary to all the work that's going on in that group. So these are the elements of a comprehensive literacy program. You'll notice that on the bottom left, we do say sight word recognition as one of the components of comprehensive literacy. Now, we are going to be talking about discrete trial specifically for emergent readers. So instead of thinking about sight words, what I want you to think about is whole words. What is the difference between a whole word and a sight word? I think that we have some preconceived notions about what sight words should be. Usually, there's some sort of sight word program going on in an elementary school with Dolch words or U-Fly or something like that, heart words or sight words, whatever you want to call them. The words tend to be kind of similar. There's words like the, of, go, where they're high frequency words. It's not that those are bad to work on, but when we talk about emergent readers, they often have very, very low reading skills, and teaching these inconsequential words for them is not going to be motivating. We want these whole words to sort of be a bit of a hook. So I do recommend that you choose a topic that your student loves, whether it be food, superheroes, Thomas the Tank Engine characters, whatever it happens to be. So choose something that they're going to be really, really excited to learn about. So for early whole word goals, the first sort of 2 stages that we see in terms of whole word recognition development. For early emergent users, we might begin to recognize and use symbols. And hey, hint, AAC is full of symbols. So that totally counts as working on this goal. So that's great. For later emergent readers, we want to be recognizing a small number of personally meaningful and highly familiar words. For some, that might be their name, again, food, whatever is motivating. We are going to teach these words without doing any hand over hand. If you want more information on this, we did do a lunch and learn on neurodiversity affirming practices. The QR code is right there. I do encourage you to watch that. It's also part of the lunch and learn playlist on our YouTube channels. So if you want to go over there and learn about why we no longer do hand over hand or recommend hand over hand, it's all over there. So some of the teaching strategies we're going to learn here are about choosing an activity that's in the right zone, errorless learning, sloppy teaching versus clean teaching. So the first step is to think about choosing an activity. What we want to do is shoot for that like 80 to 100% correct zone. That is our learning zone. Now, if we pick something that is too hard, so like 50% correct, that is in this like red chaos zone. My student is stressed out, not learning anything, and they're not having fun anymore. If they're consistently getting 100% though, they're kind of in that comfort zone and it's fine, but it's more like independent reading rather than learning new skills. So we want to shoot for that learning zone where we're getting 80 to 100% correct. And it's okay to stay at 80 to 100% correct for a short time, but we should be revamping that activity or putting it in like a break activity pile. We also want to make sure that we're using errorless learning. So what we're going to do is provide lots of scaffolding and take away those scaffolds a little bit at a time. This type of teaching strategy really promotes student independence, allows students to progress at their own pace. It increases student confidence. It provides really structured learning environment, and we can use this for a variety of skills. The way that we're going to do this is we are going to present the cue, which we'll talk about in a second. We'll present the cue and we'll give them either a correct response or an incorrect response, and then provide feedback. So we see that in the top here, right? So we're going to present the cue. If we get a correct response, we'll say, great job. But if we get an incorrect response, we're going to provide some error correction. Now, I do want to point out that if we're getting too many incorrect responses, we're going to want to go back a level. Let's go into the levels and talk about what that's going to look like. Now, to start, you should have one copy of the book with the words, one copy of the book without the words, and then you should have the corresponding word cards for matching. In level 1 matching, what we are going to do is present the student with the materials. So we will present the book with the words, and we will present just one word card. The instructions we provide will be match chocolate, or whatever you're using, but match chocolate. Remember to give some wait time and allow the student to process. One of the things that I've learned while implementing this type of teaching is that we really learn about how long somebody needs to process. Me sitting there going, match chocolate, match chocolate, match chocolate, where's chocolate? That's not helpful to the student. What we want to do is just provide the one instruction, match chocolate, and then wait. I would usually like to try to count in my head up to 5 to 10. Like, you'll know your student best. Some students, you wait to 5 and they're like off doing something else. Some students really need you to wait to 10, but play with that a little bit. But I do like to count in my head. You will also notice that as the student becomes more familiar with this activity and the words, and they begin to actually recognize the words, that processing time should go down. So we've said match chocolate, and hypothetically, the student matches the word to the word. Now, I do want to point out as well that I'm not fussy about what that matching looks like, right? So if they match and that word is now sideways, that is totally fine. The work and the selection comes kind of right there, right? Like at the point at which they select the right word, that is the thing that I'm looking for. If the student gets it wrong, provide clear feedback. Nope, let's try again. You might take a turn yourself. This level is really about teaching the routine. So I might say, Reiko's turn, match chocolate, chocolate goes on chocolate. And I would actually show them how to do that. Again, we're not using hand over hand. And then we would say, match chocolate. I do find that some students have a hard time at this level. If this is the case, you could go back a level. Again, we don't have a level 0, but you could try to teach matching of photos or cartoon pictures or whatever it happens to be, something that's really motivating for the student as a sort of intermediary step to this work. And that will just teach them the routine of this activity. In level 2, we're matching from a choice. So you will present the book with the words, and this time 2 word cards. You'll provide the instructions, match chocolate, and the student will do that. At this point, your student should already know the routine. So if they're having a hard time with this, that to me, usually the errors that we're seeing here is that they're not picking the correct word. One of the sort of intermediary steps that you could try to do is one of the word cards could be their name, for example, something really familiar, or you could have a word. I would make sure it's a word, not a letter, but you could do a word that's like really, really different. So something like the word or the word if, right? Those look really, really different from the word chocolate. So that might support them a little bit. So those are some ways that you could try troubleshooting level 2. You can also go back to level 1 for a short period of time before trying to go back to level 2 again. It's important that we do that back and forth, that we're continually trying to move forward, and then maybe we can move forward, but maybe we can't, and continually trying to move forward so that we don't get stuck in level 1. Sometimes what I see is that teams will be getting level 1 and they're like, yay, it's working great, but then there's no momentum to continually move forward. So make sure you're continually challenging your student and moving forward through these levels. For level 3, we are matching a word to a picture. you will present the book with no words and one word card. You'll say match chocolate, and that should happen. Now, I don't see a lot of errors here at level 3. If you do see errors, you need to move back a level, just like we talked about at the previous levels. Sometimes the student doesn't know where to put the word, so I might take a turn, again, sort of similar to level 1 to teach the routine, where I say, okay, Reiko's turn, I'm gonna match chocolate, and show me actually putting the word chocolate word card on the page. Now, some students like to have a line, and they can put the written word card on that line. Some students don't need that, but you can play with that. But those are the kind of errors that I'm seeing as we try to move forward to level 3. Again, it's really important to continue that forward momentum. In level 4, we're matching a word to a picture from a choice, okay? So we are going to present the student with the book with no words and 2 word cards. We're going to say match chocolate, and we should see this. Okay, this is a really hard level to transition to sometimes. And this is really like a test of knowledge, right? Because we have no cues at this point. We have to make a choice. And this is really important for us to keep in mind that we want to keep things at about 80 to 100% correct. If students are having a hard time at this level, we need to go back to level 3, stay there for a while, and then move forward again. Now, I have found that some of my students like a little bit of what I'm going to call level 3.5. So this is a strategy that I've used with some of my students, and I'm going to call it level 3.5. So what we kind of do at each trial is a little bit of level 3 and then a little bit of level 4 on that same page. We're going to present the student with the book with no words and 1 word card, and it says chocolate. Right? And so we say match chocolate, and they do this. Now, immediately after it, we're then going to present 2 words and then say match chocolate. And hopefully this happens. If not, kind of like the troubleshooting for level 2, what we could try is using a familiar word like their own name. We can, again, use a word that looks totally different, right? Like this is a really short word, so hopefully that we'll cue something, and we can try those things to try to lead into level 4. If you have any other troubleshooting sort of questions, please do reach out to us and let us know what kind of errors you're seeing, and we can try some other things to support your student to get to that level 4. What happens to the book after you're finished? So in any comprehensive reading program, we should have 3 kinds of books. We should have books that are read to the student, that are at or slightly above the student's comprehension level, books that are read with the student, which is at their instructional reading level, and they're able to read about 90% accurately, and books that are read by the student that are at their independent reading level and that they're able to read 100% accurately. For a lot of emergent readers, they have no books in that read by the student category. So what we can do is put these whole word learning books in like a independent reading folder for them, and they can gradually gain more books in that part of their library. And what happens to the words after you're finished? Okay, so for one of my students, we took his words and we put them on a word wall. So we took the word apple, and then so we had one page that had A and B on it and said, apple, does that start with A or B? And he actually was now in tune to the written word and could tell us that that belonged under A. So then he glued it in, and we are starting to gather words that he knows how to read on his word wall. If you will be doing this type of work and you'd like to make some customized books, I do want to remind you of a few things in terms of formatting your books. So we want to make sure that we follow some conventions, right? So on that cover, we should have a title that's capitalized. We should have an author, and that should again be capitalized. I also like to make sure I'm using a font that doesn't have weird letters in it. Like, you know how sometimes the G's are like weird and bubbly? I don't like those fonts. The font that I use is called Century Gothic. It's available on most software, so like in Word and stuff. It's just one of the free fonts that's included. I also like to include a big clear picture about what's inside. That's one of the things that we do when we talk about book handling skills. We look at the picture on the cover and say, what do you think this book is about? So we want to make sure that we have a big clear picture on the outside. On the inside pages, we want to make sure that this word is not capitalized unless it should be. So what I mean by that is if it's science world, we would want to make sure that there's a capital S and a capital W. But if it's chocolate, we want to make sure that it's a lowercase c. We also want to make sure that it's a nice, clear photo. You can even include a photo of your student if you think that that would be motivating and interesting to them. Again, with the matching cards, similar to what we just talked about with the inside pages of the book, we want to make sure that none of the words are capitalized unless they should be. I like to use a font like Century Gothic, and they should be exactly the same as the font that you're using in the book. There shouldn't be font differences because that could be confusing for the student. So you are on your way to developing a comprehensive literacy program for your student. I do find that by starting this type of work, I learn about how much processing time my student needs, what kind of scaffolding my student needs, and that can really, really inform some of the more difficult work that we'll be doing, such as phonological awareness and decoding. Sometimes that can be a little bit trickier. So it's a great place to start. And I hope that this video playlist has been helpful to you. And I look forward to hearing from you.